Hello and welcome back to the ADHD Linguist, the podcast where we explore the overlap between language, neurodivergence, and all the unexpected ways our brains make sense of the world. I'm Hiba Bayat, interpreter, translator, and advocate for all things ADHD, multilingualism, and mental clarity in a sometimes chaotic brain. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that can feel both scientific and deeply personal. Neuroplasticity. That's the brain's ability to change, to form new connections, rewire old patterns, and adapt over time. And for anyone with ADHD or anyone who's ever thought, this is just how I am, this one's for you. Let's start with a simple definition. Neuroplasticity is your brain's capacity to change in response to experience, learning, or environment. It used to be believed that the brain stopped changing after childhood, that once it was wired, it was set for life. We now know that's not true. Neural pathways can strengthen, weaken, or reroute, even well into adulthood. Your brain is not fixed, it's flexible, it's dynamic, and it's alive. And this is especially relevant for ADHD because our brains are constantly adapting to work around things like executive function differences, attention shifts, and emotional ups and downs. Some people call it executive dysfunction, but many of us prefer to say differences. Because it's not that we don't have these skills, it's that they don't always show up when or how we need them. The term neuroplasticity was first coined back in 1948 by a Polish neuroscientist named Jerzy Konowski. He suggested that the brain could reorganize itself structurally in response to experience. That idea was revolutionary at the time. For decades, it was believed that the adult brain couldn't change, that it developed during childhood and then it was done, set, locked in. In fact, there's a saying you might have heard, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, neuroscience would like a word with that. Because in the 1970s and beyond, researchers like Dr. Michael Merzenich showed that the brain could absolutely change, even in adulthood. He ran experiments where brain maps physically reshaped themselves based on new input or damage. Today, he's known as the father of neuroplasticity, and his work opened the door to everything we now know about how adaptive our brains really are. In ADHD, we often talk about what's missing: dopamine, consistency, memory, control. But what we don't talk about enough is how incredibly adaptive ADHD brains can be. Many of us develop our own coping mechanisms, mental workarounds, emotional or sensory strategies. Some of these are conscious, some are unconscious. And over time, the brain physically wires itself around those patterns. For example, if you've always struggled with short-term memory, you might rely heavily on visual cues like sticky notes and layouts and color-coded systems. If conversations are overwhelming, your brain might start scanning for tone or rhythm before content, a kind of social sonar. And if you're someone who hyper-focuses when emotionally invested, your brain may build a strong reward loop around novelty or urgency. These are not just behavioral habits, they become neural pathways. And that is neuroplasticity in action. Now let's add language into the mix, especially for those of us who are bilingual or multilingual. Studies show that bilingualism increases neuroplasticity, especially in regions of the brain responsible for attention, switching, and memory. Why? Because managing more than one language requires constant switching, suppressing one set of grammar or vocabulary while activating another, and navigating different cultural and tonal expectations. Every time you do that, whether you're translating a text, interpreting in real time, or switching between languages at home and work, you're reinforcing your brain's flexibility. It's a kind of a daily mental gym. Exhausting, yes, but powerful. And for neurodivergent language professionals, this can be a double-edged sword. It may make you more adaptable, but it may also leave you more prone to burnout, especially if you're constantly masking or code switching. I want to say something especially for those of you who were diagnosed later in life, like me. You might have spent years thinking your struggles were just personal flaws, that you were lazy, inconsistent, too sensitive, too scattered. But the truth is, your brain has been adapting all along, even without knowing it. And the even better news? Nothing is set in stone. Not your attention span, not your habits, not the story you've been telling yourself for years. They used to say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but honestly, that phrase didn't age well. Because we now know the brain can change at any age. It can grow, it can heal, and it can rewire. Neuroplasticity means that with new knowledge, new context, and the right support, your brain can build new paths. You can unlearn shame, you can relearn trust, you can rebuild your relationship with your own mind, one neural connection at a time. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience, from resilience, and from adaptation. So why does any of this matter? Because it changes how we talk about ADHD and how we support people with it. Instead of focusing only on dysfunction, we can focus on potential. Not how do we fix this, but how do we support this brain to thrive? And for interpreters, translators, educators, and anyone working across languages, it matters because it explains why some of us seem to learn fast, burn out quickly, or need longer recovery time. We're not fragile, we're just rewired, often repeatedly. And neuroplasticity explains both the cost and the strength in that. Let me leave you with 3 things. 1. Your brain is not set in stone. It can grow, adapt, and form new connections at any age and in any context. 2. Bilingualism and ADHD both shape neuroplasticity. They're not limitations, they're layered influences on how your brain works and responds. 3. Change is possible, and it's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more yourself with less resistance. Thank you for listening to the ADHD Linguist. If this episode gave you hope, made you curious, or helped explain something you've felt for years, I'd love to hear from you. Next time, we'll be exploring executive function. What it is, how it works or doesn't, and how ADHD and multilingualism make it more complicated, but also more interesting. In the meantime, if you're new here, do follow or subscribe wherever you're listening, or leave a review if you're feeling kind. And if today's episode reminded you that nothing is set in stone, that you're still learning, adapting, becoming, I hope you carry that with you this week. Your brain is not broken, it's brilliantly wired for change.